Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Why don't you come on in here and sit down with me, and we're going to open our Bibles up today and look at verses 5 and 6 here in Psalm 7. So Psalm 7 is a historical psalm, at least the introduction gives us that this is David's reply or response to the announcement by Cush the Benjamite that Absalom was dead. And so David is upset, of course. Being a father, he would be crushed by this announcement, and the enemy is tearing at his soul. You know, sometimes the devil takes, things like the announcement of a death or something. It could be just anything. It could be something trivial even. He'll take that to find a way in to persecute us, to ruin us, to depress us, to sadden us, to get us, to knock us off our center, And so, of course, this was horrible news, and the enemy comes in and tears the soul. He spares not. So now we come to verses 5 and 6 today. Now, yesterday we had the three ifs. Today we're going to have the then. Although the word then is not here, but we have we have the conclusion of the if matter right here in verse 5. So let's read verses 5 and 6. Let the enemy persecute my soul and take it. Yea, let him tread down my life upon the earth and lay mine honor in the dust. Selah. Arise, O Lord, in thine anger. Lift up thyself because of the rage of mine enemies, and awake for me to judgment that thou hast commanded. So David makes this prayer here. So the first part of the psalm is David's guilt. The second part of the psalm is the glory of the Lord. He wants the Lord to be glorified. He doesn't want to be glorified. He wants the Lord to be glorified in all of this. And so here in verse 5, he says, let the enemy persecute my soul. So again, like the lion, his soul is being torn, and if he's done this, then let's just let it happen, because it's right that it happens. David himself has opened the door for this to happen. Let him take it, yea, tread it down, yea, lay my honor in the dust. So all of that, that David is saying, just, if I'm the one that did this, then all that the enemy's doing is appropriate. Let him keep doing it. Now, of course, also we could see this as kind of a scapegoatish kind of thing. David doesn't want to deal with the problem. He doesn't want to deal with the enemies. And so he says, well, just let me die then. If I've done this, just let me die. So, again, we get a peek into his soul, and we understand this kind of despair, don't we? I mean, when things are just so bad, we kind of get to the place where we say to ourselves, well, if this is the case, then, what's the point of me continuing? So we don't want to get there, because, there is a point for you to continue. There is a point for you to go on. And it is to serve the Lord and to enjoy him. And so, David's saying, let's just let the enemy put me down in the dust. Now we have a break. We have a Selah. So we stop for a minute and think about it. And then when he comes back from the Selah in verse 6, it's completely different. Now it's not rise up to my defense, but it's rise up and destroy the enemy. He says, rise up, O Lord, in your anger. So he wants the Lord to be justified here. In your anger, lift up yourself because of the rage of my enemies. So, the fact that the enemy's attacking is one thing, but the abuse of the enemy is something completely different. And David says, rise up now, Lord, in your glory. Lift yourself up because of the rage of my enemies. Awake for me to judgment. So even though David finds himself guilty, and even though David finds the enemy's attack justified to a point, now he says their rage and their abuse is over the top. Rise up to me. Rise up for me. Stand against this enemy and execute for me the judgment that you've already commanded. So David throws himself on the Lord here. which is good because, we don't often do that. When we get down in the mouth like this and we say, well, just let the enemy do whatever, we kind of end our prayer there, but David doesn't. He says, Lord, rise up and, show yourself strong on my behalf. So he continues to make his prayer, and he kind of pulls himself, I think, up a little bit out of this despondency that he's in here when he begins here in verse 6. And then we're going to continue in 7 and 8, and David's still concerned about the glory of the Lord, that the Lord shows himself strong, that the people recognize that, and we'll get into all that as we look at 7, 8, and 9 this week. Well, join me again tomorrow, and we'll be there in 7 and 8 here on Daily Dose Radio.